Firstly, I'd just like to say a special thank you to Elspeth, who, without his emotional support, I don't think the book would have been finished. Or no way. And Maggie has been a huge support, and who wrote the endorsement. Where's Maggie? There she is. Look, hiding. And she's a really fine poet, whose collection Degrees of Twilight you ought to read. Do you have any copies?
No.
Yeah.
Can order them though.
You can order them, right? Okay. Well, this is the book called Kinch. What's it about? Well, I mean, it's about the search for coherence in an incoherent world, basically. But it's about loads of other things as well. And as I was just saying to Simon over there, the narrative doesn't have the same kind of significance. It doesn't have the same kind of doesn't have the same function in Kinch as it does in most other books. In Kinch, it's mostly in most books the narrative is probably, you could describe it as the bones of the book, whereas in Kinch it seems more like the clothes of the book. So anyway, it's set in the present. It takes place in and around the walled city of Axton, which is a fictitious place based partly on my memories of Oxford in the 1960s. It's a many-stranded tale which follows the ups and downs of its three main characters, Kinch, Pigeon and Brownie, as they each try to make sense of the nightmarish chaos in which they seem to find themselves. Now the style is a little bit different from what you might be used to. It's not in chapters, it's in tabs. The 60 sections of the book are called tabs, and this is because, as well as being stages in the narrative, they're designed very much as distinct entities in themselves. Entities which can be almost lifted from the novel in the same way that tabbed document files can be lifted from the filing cabinet. So that's why they're called tabs, because I wanted to get rid of the linearity of the idea of chapters, which is not to say that there's not a linear narrative, which there is. Now the layout, it consists of conventional block prose, which are all used to, and what I call lineated prose, which it's like a music-related device that I use to control the rhythm and the pace at which the prose is read. So lineated prose isn't another word for free verse or prose poetry. I think I'd better start by... So I'll read a few, just to give you a sort of flavour of the book. I'll read three short extracts. The whole thing, it's not going to take more than 8 minutes, so just so that you know.
8? Unless there's wild applause at the end.
Well, okay. Thanks, Dave. Well, I'll begin with a very small section from the first tab, which introduces Pigeon. He's a 33-year-old man who has up until now led a fairly sheltered life, but one of de facto solitary confinement under the auspices of the Dean of Axton and the Dean's so-called nurse, Clarissa Mockhart. Pigeon is erudite. He's an erudite guy, only patchily erudite, largely self-educated and rather nervous. And the second extract introduces the reader to the Dean of Axton and Clarissa Mockhart, and the third introduces us to Kinch himself. I'm sure most of you know, but just in case you don't, there's the phaeton, or phaeton, is a small and very sporty open horse-drawn carriage, popular in the early 18th century. It was quite dangerous, actually. Right, this is in tab 1. It's about pigeon. The spasm fades. The head lowers. Past his fingers, the man sees a dim savannah crisscrossed by chalk-hill blue and brimstone and tortoiseshell, an endless throb and shift of heat and honey brown and silver. Detaching hands from face, he starts walking toward the hills. Big-boned, round-shouldered, arms loose at his sides. All about him the high, tonitic round song of the grasshoppers. Bent forward, thick-necked, long-headed, bull-headed, hair a thin white fuzz. He lifts his feet out of and back into the dying millet, savours the hiss of it against his shoes, its whip and tickle on his hands. The eyes are small in the oversized head. Covering the right side of his face from high on the forehead to just below the ear, but entirely missing the nose, is a fetus-shaped purple birthmark. Elsewhere, the face is wax white, reddened only slightly down the rim of his nose by the long weeks of heat. Hot all day, but the day nearly over. Midges smoke ring his head, but he doesn't mind. From his left trouser pocket, he extracts a tiny furl of screwed up paper. From the right pocket, he pulls more scraps of paper and a block of roseate nephritic jade worked into the likeness of a seated monkey. Breath clouds its surface. The man's lips form a smile, or half smile. A fly crawls up the birthmark. The eye wrinkles. The fly drops off. This is tab 2, which discovers the Dean of Axton and his nurse, Clarissa Mockhart, en route to an unspecified destination. Evening. The manse. Grounds of same. An antique phaeton, slewing left, rains chunks of pink and grey on the mottled velour of the south lawn. The carriage's 2 black geldings veer left once again as the gravel road turns back on itself to the manse, before straightening out to give a clear run to the gatekeeper's lodge. Wheels rip ditches through the crushed granite. The sole passenger, male, clings to the side as his driver, female, on the driving perch, screams uninventive obscenities at the beasts below her. The air streaming past the man's face is thick with flying ants, peppering his eyes and mouth. He wrenches his head around out of the wind, slithering off the narrow bench and onto the floor, with one hand clamped onto the brass rail above, retching and spitting as the winged bodies squirm their way into the tightest crannies of his maw. Clarissa, she, the nurse, laughs and chews. Reins wrapped round the arthritic lump of her right fist, she slashes at the geldings with the scourge gripped in her other hand. On she goads them, their withers stung raw from the bite of knotted leather. Buffeted, slammed against varnish, the passenger feels a qualified afflatus roll through him in waves. He spits out the last of the fat black intruders, lifts a free hand to hook into the folds of his driver's cream and purple peacock-patterned frock. She swings around, bearing in anticipation an implausibly pristine double rack of china-bright teeth. "Faster, you witch!" demands the passenger. The whip cracks. A deep-throated roar resounds over the din of swirling gravel. Get on! Get on! Get on, you fuckers! His fingers screw into the back of her dress, clockwise, anti-clockwise, clawing at the lathes of hot muscle. Faster! Faster! He grabs at the carriage rail, hauls himself upright. 5'2", the Dean. 41 years old, looks at least 50. The Dean of Axton. Grey lids, squeezed tight, are almost closed. Almost, not quite. His dribbling dead-fish eyes are fixed on the road ahead. On something on the road ahead. Tab 4, which observes the boy Kinch setting an ambush. On the road ahead. The crouching figure is a boy of 14. He rummages in the gravel. When his fingers find a stone larger than the rest, he pulls it out, rejects it, continues the search. Lank hair, the colour of old Hessian, hangs down over a pair of thick, blue-rimmed glasses. Either he is too absorbed to notice the hair, some of which is trapped between his eyes and glasses, or it really doesn't bother him. Carriage. Horses. Noise. He glances up, frowns, tips forward onto his knees, wincing as jags of granite rake into bare skin. He pushes his hands deeper up to the wrists. The pain is intense, but still he works his fingers down and round until at last his right hand hits something square and granular. Spreading out his fingers, he finds the rough edges of the new shape, hooks fingertips over the sides and pulls hard. It doesn't budge. Incensed by the burgeoning racket of wheels and hooves, he extracts his left hand and rams it down again into the shingle until it too finds an edge to grip. He pulls at one side, then the other. Sweat trickles into his eyes. The shape moves, loosens, is free. He scrambles to his feet, clutching a damp maroon half-brick. Unsteady for a moment, he sees the phaeton and its occupants closing in, draws back his arm, takes aim, high enough to avoid the horses, and with all his boy strength, hurls the brick in a steep, arching trajectory. He turns to run, glimpsing his missile as it spins higher into the light. And then he throws himself toward the grass verge, arms windmilling, feet flailing gravel like treacle in a fever dream. That'll do for now. Well, drink up.
Okay.
Buy the book. Oh yeah, buy the book. But never mind. Yeah.
I'm going to read
buy the book.
Yeah.
How much later can you go?
Yeah, we are still. If you missed it, we're still selling second-hand books for whatever you want. Pay whatever you like. Put any amount. Penny for 10 books. One book for £100. I might have stretched those parameters a bit more than last time, but then again, there is wine involved. So, once again, David, are you ready? Have you been filming me?
Yeah, why not?
I should probably not say fuck then.
No, I wouldn't say fuck, no.
Try again.
Shit, I forgot not to say fuck.
Not sure about shit either, really.
Really? Oh. Once again, a polite round of applause for Mr. Laurie Owen.
Thanks very much, Tim. For my, now is that too close to the mic? Or,
That's good.
is that good?
Yeah, fine.
Thank you.
You're getting,
Yeah,
you know, a
about 4
little
inches,
bit
yeah,
of popping.
4 inches is good.
Laurie, can I just suggest, don't speak straight into it, but across it. So
Across
you're not
it.
slightly, you know, put it at an angle, so you're not popping, getting your breath.
Raise your chin a little bit and kink your left knee.
That's it, yeah.
And then, yeah.
Magnificent.
Like a pose.
One elbow up.
Like that.
Right. that's probably more like it.
That's nicer.
Right. No, this is from a bit later in the book. This first piece is concerns 29-year-old Brownie, who describes himself as a sometime actor, sometime musician, sometime private investigator, and sometime kitchen porter. He's also a frustrated poet, and this describes how he first discovers a passion for drawing and painting, and it roughly reflects my own experience at the age of 18. Farmtown, by the way, is the light industrial suburb of Axton. Tab 44, in which a paid informer finds a new vocation. Noon, the edge of Farmtown, an untended field, a pond. The grasshopper trembles, or the page trembles, in the breeze. Brownie extends an emaciated finger. When his fingertip touches the dry stalk of the nearest jumping leg, nothing happens. He tries again, this time pushing the leg sideways a little. As the insect takes off, he feels the recoil through the thickness of his notebook and imagines it springing from the palm of his hand. Opening stanza, 5th draft. May never leaves you, Abba, etc., etc. Scratches out everything apart from the first line, first word, then that. Then why, oh why, this same old blundering bloody split skid down the same old airless helix vortex, till here he is again, peeper deep up his own winker stinker, and none the same old fucking wiser. Turns back the pages, relives all the other bad beginnings. And yet, the breeze fans his cheek, rustles reeds in the muddy pond. A dead-skin veil of cloud, high diffuser of the light, thins out. On the opposite bank, a farmer's wind pump creaks into life. He turns the book over. The air tastes sweet. A rose bay willow herb leans its head on his shoulder. He breaks off a spear of wild barley and harpoons a dock leaf. His boulder seat grows uncomfortable. He shifts a little, disturbs a moth. Another movement, small, clockwork, on the ground near his right shoe. Pulse of a toad's throat. He looks, tracks with the light in the light's elucidation of the damp and olive, bump and hollow flesh, reopens the notebook, and starts to copy with his micro-rollerball pen the shape and shading of the toad's head. And as he copies, he starts to feel in his own reptile bones the weight of each dark form. Pen to scriber, to scalpel, to spatula, spike, tentacle antenna, dissecting, reconstructing. Before the drawing is finished, the toad staggers off into the undergrowth. He shuts the book, walks back to Axton in a spun hub of love. With the second extract, we're back with the Dean, who has spent the night in his rooms at the Bishop's Palace. The Bishop's Palace is the headquarters of the Stigmata Society, an exclusive and influential club with strong connections to Axton Cathedral. For fans of my singing voice, you've a treat in store. Yeah, don't get your hopes up. Right, tab 16, in which the Dean prepares for a busy day. 7:30 a.m. The Bishop's Palace. Pange lingua gloriosi corporis mysterium sanguinisque pretiosi quem in mundi pretium fructis ventris generosi rex effudit gentium. Through halls of olive-washed terracotta it comes, past wall-wide painted bas-reliefs of medieval stag hunts, of bird hunts, man hunts, idyls of blood. Nobis datus, nobis natus ex inacta virgine, sui moras inculatus mira clausit ordine. Past gleaming busts of chubby-cheeked generals and hard-to-please archbishops. Verbum caro, panum verum, verbo canem efficit. Over steel-cold chessboard floors it comes. Ad firmandum ca sincerum sola fides sufficit. Past steel-cold negrescent fireplaces lowering over their preserved like mobilized warlords. Tantum ergo sacramentum veneremo cernui. Under hieroglyphed Egyptian lintels, over Azerbaijani rugs and Persian carpets, proistet fides supplementum sensuum defectui. Through the Greek and the Latin libraries, through the lamplit studies, hued by Moorish lunettes of amber and almandine, and past the doors, past the closed doors, past the sighing, the moaning, the heavy-breathing doors of the members' apartments, comes the sound of singing tra-la, singing tra-la. A sweet baritone, marred only by the merest modicum of vanity, leavens the morning air. Genitore genitoque lauset jubilatio. The Dean stands at his window, transmuted by light. Sound streams from the open mouth. God is in his heaven on this glorious day. Procendeti abutroque comparsit laudatio. Behind him, a door opens. A liveried butler slips into the room and waits, hands clasped, head bowed sideways, little bird eyes locked on the singer's back. Another bird-like face peeps round the door, thinks better of it, and removes elsewhere. Amen. The singer is joined, an octave higher, on his final top C, by the tenor drone of an electric lawnmower starting up just below his window. His hand turns the window catch. A skein of water droplets shivers along the foot of each pane. Opening the casement, he leans out to see the offending gardener disappear with his offending machine around the buttressed corner of the building. The singing mood still upon him, The Dean draws breath, straightens up, and steals unerringly into the first notes of a Tudor lament. 6 dukes went a-fishing down by yon seaside. He permits his eyes to wander at random, only half seeing across the palace grounds. A sunken path, a cotoneastered wall, and then, winding lazily through its own spacious boulevard of turf and caked mud and amputated trees, the thick brown blood of the Axton Canal. Thank you. Loads of food. Please eat food. It's lovely food. Thank you very much, Helen.
People herding. I'm not doing anything useful here. It's just playing, really. It's quite fun. Everybody quite enjoying themselves? I think. Yeah, well, what on earth are you doing? There are no jokes. There are genuinely no jokes. That's the really saddest thing about my life. No jokes. Long, embarrassed silences.
This is getting a bit dark.
All right, lift it. A couple of things, really. Still selling second-hand books. Still collecting money for Calais. That's one. Still food. If you've got a way of transporting some of the food with you when you go home,
Yeah.
that might not be such a bad idea.
Yes, please do.
If transporting it means pigging out on it now, go for it. Because I've been trying to do that, and it's all very nice, but it's quite hard work. And it's I mean hard work as in eating all of it. So Laurie is going to read for us by popular request. Go on, who did it? Anyone? No. And of course we are still here celebrating the publication of Laurie's first and hopefully last. No, hopefully the first of many. You're going to write this down for me next time. Hopefully the first of many, because this sounds. I haven't had a chance to read it because it only arrived 3 or 4 weeks ago, and I'm lazy. But once again, a polite round of applause for Mr. Laurie. Hey. So sleepy, I really should stop.
Thanks very much. Thanks very much, Tim. Yes, I hadn't really quite prepared this. Hope it goes okay. I was only going to do 2 readings, but now I'm doing 3. I'll start with a short piece first. The first piece, tab 14, is concerns Kinch and Pigeon have met, and they've had a rather violent incident with a large mastiff in the wood, which meant Pigeon has a mangled arm. So I think that's probably all I need. And they've they got a bit lost, and so they ended up in the middle of this small wood outside of Axton. Tab 14. Tab 14, which revisits the sombre vignette. 1:30 a.m. The forester's silo. Kinch has been asleep for 3 hours, and now Pigeon drops, uneasy, his arm still throbbing into a kind of sleep, but warm at least under their rotten blanket. 2 a.m. The little wood flinches, Something moves through it, along its narrow veins. A lumpish, furred creature, white blubber, two-legged in a sheep's pelt, lugging a gizmo, clanking iron against a marshmallow thigh. A skinful of malignancy, fat maggots around the silo, dumps its load, disappears into the night. 3 a.m. A metallic crunch, a whine, a rustle of beach mast. And now we go more towards the end of the book. This is a kind of prelude to what in some ways is the sort of climax for the book, but in some ways it isn't. Anyway, Kinch, the 14-year-old boy, is going to climb a tree and watch some people that he knows going to a big event, and the big event is at Axton Cathedral. It's the it's the High Mass Extraordinary that's going to be held in the Abbey Cathedral at Axton. And fifth day, tab 53, in which a boy views his fellow citizens on their way to a most solemn occasion. Fifth day, early evening, the Vintry Gardens. Originally used as a monk's graveyard, the area between Beadlegate and Hollywell Hill is known as Vintry, an old name derived from the abbey vineyards which prospered here in the middle of the 12th and 13th centuries. Dong, dong, da dong, dong, da dong, ga da dong, ga da dong, ga da dong. Kinch tries a second time, reverses over pebbles, over the smooth blocks of the herringbone path, until he feels the seat of the bench once again digging into the backs of his knees. Good-a-dong, good-a-dong. Off he runs, takes huge strides across the yellow brick path. With a final push, he launches himself over the pebbles and onto the low-sloping trunk of the Lebanon cedar, planted 1799, gift of Isabel de Bourbon. 3 giant steps along the trunk, and then a leap forward, with his arms outstretched, reaching up and high. This time, his fingers find the thick upstand of corded bark encircling the inverted armpit of the great cedar, where it splits into 4. Over the upstand, into the hollow. Dong, da-dong. One of the 4 branches hangs parallel with the ground. One arches out over the garden wall, the other 2 rear up into the foliage, dark, fibrous viridian, layer on layer, pulled and flattened into claws. He looks around, chooses. Good dong, good dong, good dong, good dong, good dong, da dong. Sitting astride the neck of his dendroid brontosaurus, Kinch works himself forward and upward to an outcrop of young branches. At this point he stands, weaving his way through the branchlets to a horizontal bough with a flat dipping curve, which he clears of twigs and appropriates for use as a prickly seat. Now above the wall of the Vintry Gardens, he has a clear view of Augustine's Way and the chapter house doors. Below him, through the needles, he can also see the first arrivals for tonight's big event, the Memorial High Mass Extraordinary of St. Wulfrig Augustinans. Glasses from pocket. Hook them on tight. Heads of hats and hair, grey shoulders, saying nothing, bowed, pummeled by the bells, alone, 2s and 3s, no children, no touching, no running, no looking up. Dong, gong. There, Manifold Stevens, dapper-hatted Hebridean watchmaker, and Flora, his succulent, dapper-hatted wife. From Kinch's own street, 28, the small house opposite. King Gussie Flora, always popping round for this and that, dropping in for coffee with his mum, sparring and flirting with him. And as for all those pointless 5-quid jobs around her immaculate house, and as for her, always just stepped out of the shower with a fluffy bathrobe clutched to her pink flesh, teasing him for his confusion. And then, of course, that time in the bus, the long journey back from Market Day in Shipley, top deck, front seat, summer-frocked thigh pressed hotly to his, hands fluttering over his, darting little squeezes to knees and forearm, sharing her expensive butterscotch. Into the porch they go. Dong, gong. There. Good old Enoch. Enoch Bangs and his lifelong anonymous miserable girlfriend. Flat cap Enoch, fast bowler, slogger, resident foul-tempered rough diamond fixture at the farm town cricket club. A card. Well loved by all, but not Kinch. Not by Kinch, who, try as he might, cannot forget last summer being trapped with 2 other boys in the cricket club toilets by this good old lovable son-of-a-gun institution, and made to look on as he rubbed his gigantic 40-year-old purple-veined cock to nauseating efflorescence, good old Enoch, into the porch. Gong, gong. And there, Idris Sheepshagger Crump and his wife Bronwyn, awesome oligarchs of Kinch's junior school, administrators of their own stern brand of biblical socialism, disciplinarians of the old kidney. And those assemblies, Sheepshagger at the lectern, booming out the laws of Marx and Moses, surveying his mystified pupils benignly over the rim of his heavy bifocals, and on a table to his left, an umbrella rack displaying a row of 12 canes, taxonomically arranged according to weight, length, efficacy. And seated to his right at another table, Bronwyn Crump, deputy head, the train, solid and powerful, needing no threat of birchwand or hellfire to fill the children under her tutelage with diarrheic dread. Kinch stays very still as they stroll beneath him, at a carefully respectable distance from the malodorous Enoch Bangs, into the porch. Gong, gong. In clusters they drift past, suited, dour, even the most wayward co-opted into a state of crypto-decency by the grimness of the occasion. There, trimmed and tuckered by experts, go the leeches, partners in borderline jiggery-pokery, often in court but never sent down, and never failing to embarrass Kinch with a grin, a knowing wink to a fellow scamp, with their mother, into the porch. Gong, gong, and there the clacks, way-brained over-the-fence neighbours from 6 years back before the move to the flat. He wonders what their son Colin looks like now. Would they recognise each other? And there, Kip Smith, mobile fishmonger, hung like a horse, they say, post like a pony, they say, by himself for once. And the Wheelers, and the Wilsons, and Dr. Zack, his first doctor, who pulled the big red crayon from his nose all those years ago. People from shops, street people, faces with no name. Gong, gong. So many. Why so many? Perhaps no. But so many, and now it can't be. It can't be. Dong, gong. Mive and Stevie. A surprise, he knows they come every Sunday, but why now? As they pass underneath, he blows a hiss. Mive looks up, frowns, and then smiles. A verger on porch duty spots him and disappears inside. Trouble, mutters Kinch as he begins the difficult return journey. Halfway down, backwards, astride the saurian neck, the Lady Chapel door squeaks open, and then another noise, nasal, canine. Oi, you, down! He twists round to see the verger, an old enemy, swaying from side to side with anticipatory relish, clutching a bamboo cane. At last he reaches the cupped platform at the top of the massive trunk. The black-suited predator is still down below waiting for him. One foot rests on the flank of Kinch's tree. The hands grip the cane at either end, flexing it over his knee. The boy turns to the lowest and narrowest of the four main branches, the one running parallel to the ground. He takes the run in long, light steps, putting as little weight as possible on the branch. The bark is smooth like skin, but he doesn't slip. The verdure crashes through the pebbles behind him. A bough, a spiky upright, lurches towards him. Without slowing, he leaps left, into air. He lands on pebbles, stumbles and falls forward onto his palms and scrambles up onto the path in one unbroken movement. A sprint for the open doorway of the garden wall, through the door, out into the street. A steady jog through the alleyways of Old Axton, until he's safe. 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 That's it.